I say to you, this generation shall not pass till all these things be fulfilled. Just a note on that, he's not talking about the generation he's speaking to. He's talking about the generation he's been talking about in the last days. He's saying after the tribulation, in those days, when the sun shall be darkened and the moon shall give their light. So clearly he's talking about the future. This generation, meaning the generation I'm talking about. This has happened before, where the difference between the word this and the word that. The word that we understand as something that we're talking about farther away. But it's not actually correct English. If we're speaking on a certain subject, it would be more correct to say, this makes sense. But we nowadays don't say that. We say, oh yeah, that makes sense. As if the idea we're speaking about is kind of far away. But no, Jesus is speaking on a subject. So the correct answer would be this generation that I'm talking about, meaning the one in the future, will not pass away till all these things be fulfilled. So when it starts, that's the generation that's going to see the end. But not until it starts will it soon come to an end. Mark, verily I say to you that this generation shall not pass. Oh my goodness. Maybe I should exchange it for the word that, so that to get rid of the misunderstanding. Verily I tell you, that generation shall not pass. I might actually do that. What does Luke say? Verily I say to you, this generation shall not pass. Okay, Luke also has this generation. I think I am actually going to do it. I'm going to exchange the word this for the word that. It's here in Mark. I tell you that this generation. But I have heard so many accusations that Jesus was a false prophet, right? Because he said, this generation will not pass till these things be fulfilled. He was talking about his generation. No, he wasn't. Some of the things that he foretold of had intermediate fulfillments, like the destruction of Jerusalem in AD 70, but the ultimate fulfillment is in the last days. So I am going to do it. I'm going to say, verily I say to you, that generation shall not pass. The word that better portrays or conveys what Jesus is saying instead of this. Actually, there's a problem if I'm going to do that. Exchange the word this for that. Jesus was technically asked two questions by his disciples. When will these things come to pass? Meaning the temple being torn down, no stone left upon another. And what will be the sign of your coming in the end of the age or the end of the world? The temple being torn down, that did happen in AD 70. Some of Jesus' response must have referred to AD 70 and may also have had secondary fulfillments later on. But he definitely gave them signs about the end of the age, Jesus' return, the rapture, 2 being in the field, 1 being left, and that did not happen at AD 70. So some of his response referred to AD 70, and some must have referred to later. I can't just put that generation when this generation that he was living in at the time, the people he was talking to, some of them would still be alive at the time Jerusalem was destroyed. I should leave this, and it is Matthew and Mark anyway. So I'm going to have this because something is going to be fulfilled in this generation, not just the generation he's talking about the future, but the generation he's living in. And I'll leave off that from Mark. Generation shall not pass. That's all three. Oh, look at that. Luke has away. Matthew doesn't. Mark doesn't. So just Luke away. Luke continues, till all be fulfilled. Mark, till all these things be done. Matthew, till all these things be fulfilled. Okay, so I'll have fulfilled, that's used twice, but other than that, till all these things are added in Matthew and Mark. All three be, I would go with are if that was an option, but it's not. Matthew and Luke fulfilled. Matthew continues, heaven and earth shall pass away. Mark, heaven and earth shall pass away. Luke, heaven and earth shall pass away. So all three, heaven and earth shall pass away. But my words shall not pass away. That's all three. Luke has, and take heed to yourselves, lest at any time your hearts be overcharged with surfeiting and drunkenness and cares of this life, and so that day come upon you unawares. That's similar to not the next verse in Matthew, or the entire mention of the days of Noah, or the rapture. But in verse 42, watch ye therefore, for you know not what hour your Lord does come. Mark skips all that. There is verse 32, which I didn't put in here, but verse 33 is similar. Take heed, watch, and pray, for you know not when the time is. So that's where I'll combine again. I have just one verse from Mark. I'll combine that one verse with Matthew, and then a whole bunch with Matthew about the days of Noah. And that is where I'll combine with all this from Luke 17. And then I'll combine with all three again in Luke 21. So Matthew 25:36. But of that day and hour knows no man, no, not the angels of heaven, but my Father only. Mark 13:32. But of that day and that hour knows no man, no, not the angels which are in heaven, neither the Son, but the Father. But of that day and hour. But of that day and hour. Matthew doesn't have the word that hour. In Mark it does, but that is in italics, so I'll just leave it off. So Matthew, Mark, but of that day and hour. Matthew knows no man, man is in italics, knows no man. The word man is only Mark. How can man not be there in Matthew? Of that day and hour knows no. Just end there, the sentence. No, not the angels which are in heaven. Matthew. No, not the angels of heaven. No, not the angels. That's both. So should I have of heaven or which are in heaven? I usually go with all the words, the majority of the words, unless there's a problem. But this just seems unnecessary. Which are in. If you're going to say of heaven, that pretty much explains it, doesn't it? The angels of heaven. But I'll just go with the majority of words anyway, which are in heaven. That's both. Matthew continues, but my Father only. Mark has neither the Son, but the Father. So, just Mark for this next statement. Neither the Son, now both, but the Father, or as Matthew says, my Father. I think I should go with the Father, because Jesus has said before, your Father, our Father who art in heaven. So it's not, he's not just Jesus' Father, he's everyone's Father God. So I'm going to go with that, the Father. And I know this is kind of rare. I don't usually do this, but I think it's appropriate. Father is both. That's the end in Mark. Matthew adds only. So I'll have that. Only. I just realized that in my eagerness to change that generation back to this, I focused on the fact that Matthew and Luke only had this. And I forgot that the word this actually is in Mark. This generation. But I'm going to leave off the that. It doesn't sound proper. I don't think it's necessary. So I'm just going to have this generation. Now the entire passage reads, verily I say to you, this generation shall not pass away, till all these things be fulfilled. Heaven and earth shall pass away, but my words shall not pass away. But of that day and hour knows no man, no, not the angels which are in heaven, neither the Son, but the Father only.